It's July now, and the tomatoes are starting to come along. Some of them are getting ripe. So I thought I'd do a little video about how I grow my container tomatoes and how it's going this year as compared to last year, what I've done differently. So this is how I grow them. They're in these pots. They're, resin pots about 18 inches across, 14 inches high, so it's a pretty good sized pot. And then I put these cedar stakes in them, and that's about a 6 foot high cedar stakes, and then I lash them together with I put bamboo pieces and I tie them together with zip ties, or that kind of helps to hold the stakes upright as well, to have them bound together like that. But just in between I'll put bits of jute twine just to support the tomatoes as well. I like this because if you want to get a 6 foot tall tomato cage, those cost a bit of money to get like a sturdy one. And this, you can make it to any size. You can get these cedar stakes anywhere. They're pretty cheap. Bamboo, same deal. So that's worked out for me pretty well. This is the second year that I've used these stakes. I just kind of took off the ties and stuff in between and then rebuilt them. And as you can see, I don't really worry about making them perfectly straight or whatnot. It's just to support the tomatoes. One thing I've done differently this year that I'm pretty pleased with is the addition of this mulch. This is just the basic, pretty cheap wood chip mulch. It's mostly bark, actually, like you get in a bale at any hardware store. So this is not really like a deep mulch, hardwood mulch system, or what people call back to Eden system, where we'd put down lots and lots of wood chips, and then the wood chips would break down thanks to fungi in the soil and in the wood chips, and it kind of adds to the soil. There's not enough of the wood chips to really do that, and the material itself is not ideal. But anyway, what I have noticed, even with this little bit of wood chips, is it really protects the soil, and they dry out much, much less than last year. So I water these once or twice a week, depending on how hot it gets, whereas last year I'd have to water them every few days. On a hot day, a container, even a good-sized container like this, will dry out. Not all the way, but too much. And I could really see the soil shrinking back from the sides of the container on a hot day, and now that it really happens much, much less. So I'm very pleased with that. And the other thing is that it provides a protective layer between the soil and the plant in order to prevent splashback. So when I water, the water's not bouncing directly from the soil surface back onto the plant, so there's less opportunity for disease spores, fungal spores, and probably bacteria as well to get onto the leaves and start causing problems. So this year I've had basically no fungal problems at all with these tomatoes, whereas last year I did, and I think that's really down to the mulch here. So I quickly want to mention just the varieties I'm growing this year and how they're doing. So this is one that I'm trying out called Blueberry, and I got it from Baker Creek Seeds. There's a plant breeder who's been, I guess, working on things to make really blue tomatoes. And as you can see, that is a pretty color, and it's a pretty little tomato. But what's been happening is that when it gets ripe, it turns yellow, and you can still see there's a dusting of blue on there, but I'm kind of waiting to see if maybe, hopefully, it'll get a little bluer when it gets ripe. I would love that, but it is a tasty little tomato. It's grown just fine, no problems. Over here we have the black cherry, which is a very popular variety. You can see a couple of them getting ripe, and I've harvested some of the lower ones. And this is a nice tomato. It has grown pretty vigorously. You can see how tall that is. I pinched the tips out when it was just getting above the height of this, so all of that growth there is just a couple of little nodes that were sticking up above the top. So anyway, it's been a really vigorous grower. It's fruited well. It's a nice flavored tomato, and it's doing very well in the container, so I can see why it's so popular. Over here we have one called the Paul Robeson. This is an heirloom kind of lumpy potato-shaped tomato. It's got a little bit of cat facing on the back, on the undersides. I grew this last year as well, and it has grown well for me, no problems. And it's a black tomato, very similar to the black Krim, but between the two, this one had fewer problems last year, fewer disease problems. So I'm trying it again, and again, it's doing well. Really nice flavor. You do get smaller tomatoes. With a standard sized tomato like this, the fruits will be smaller in a container as compared to in the ground. That doesn't really happen so much with the cherry tomatoes, where you can see those are normal sized cherry tomatoes. which is one reason why next year I think I might grow all cherry tomatoes. But this year I've got the black Krim, or no, sorry, the Paul Robeson here. And again, I'll use it for salads or sandwiches and stuff. But it's not all going so well. We can come over here where you can see a really obvious problem. Blossom end rot. Oh, look at that. So this is a plum tomato called Orange Banana, and I don't know. I tried growing San Marzanos last year, and last year they were the only ones that had blossom end rot. And this year I'm trying to grow these plum tomatoes, and again, they're the only ones that have blossom end rot. I tried to, keep it well watered, but not overwatered, and I put a lot of crushed up eggshells into the soil, and there's a lot of different kinds of compost and stuff in the soil, and I don't really understand why there's a calcium deficiency, but there is. So I'm thinking maybe these plum tomatoes, and I wonder if they're genetically related to each other. Maybe there's something about them that is just not going to do well in containers. I'll pick out the worst affected fruits here. I'll still be able to get something off this tomato, but it's a little bit disappointing. I'll mention as well that I put in these wing beans recently, and so my thought is to grow them in the understory, mainly growing them for greens, and then also successionally when the tomatoes come out at the end of the summer. So we'll see how that goes. So anyway, just wanted to share a little bit about the tomatoes and talk about why I think it's really worthwhile to put some kind of mulch down, having tried it both ways. Okay,